the course of the past, I don't know, I want to say year and a half, 2 years, it feels like now, we've been hearing this one particular phrase that just grates every professional journalist to no end. And that, of course, is fake news, right? Donald Trump, 45th president of the United States, has made that term just wholly popular, and it's misused time and time and time again to deflect from valid criticism, at least in regards to Trump. But what we're seeing now is this thing that it's scary. It's actually legitimately scary to an extent. And that what you're seeing here in the image on the screen to the right is just clips of Sinclair Broadcasting. It is a broadcast company that owns 200 different outlets around the United States. And they're currently getting mocked heavily for having sent out this particular PSA that they made every single one of their stations repeat verbatim. The only difference is that the call sign in the video or in the speech was just put to the local affiliate. And it was pretty crazy because Deadspin actually came together and talked about, and they show it. We're going to watch the video here in a second, but they talked about this. And it's really creepy to watch play out, because there was an episode of last week tonight from July of 2017 where John Oliver does go pretty heavily into Sinclair, and it does get pretty creepy, because what you've learned is that they send out like terror alerts and these other things that they're forcing these stations to run, and the stations will sometimes run them around like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when a few people are watching, but it's clearly designed to spread a certain narrative, and it's clearly designed to elicit a certain reaction. And when you see this particular thing, it is straight up crazy. But first, so what we see here is earlier this month, CNN's Brian Stelter broke the news that Sinclair Broadcast Group, owner and operator of nearly 200 television stations in the U.S., would be forcing its news anchors to read a promo about the troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country. The script, which parrots Donald Trump's oft declarations of developments negative to his presidency as fake news, brought upheaval to newsrooms already dismayed with Sinclair's consistent interference to bring right-wing propaganda to local television broadcasts. And taking a look here, just pay attention to this.
Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about the troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Danger to our democracy. Yeah, I can see where they're coming from on that one. It almost feels like fake news is a danger on our democracy, which it truly is. It really is. If you're able to lie and get people to believe the lie, then ultimately, yes, that's very much a danger to our democracy. And I feel that when it comes to the current presidential administration, man, they like to lie. Ooh, they love to lie on that one. But these organizations, you can tell just from that clip, there were a few people there that were just trying to stomach their way through it. They were just like, it's a danger to our democracy. Can I go home now? Is it done? Can I get this over with? Other people were trying to lay on like it's a danger to our democracy. And some were just very much just trying to get the hell through it, right? And you have to know that these people, that these guys absolutely positively do not like approve of this kind of stuff. The local homegrown journalists, like, they take their job seriously. And it does feel in this current day and age that, like, you know, the attack on the Washington Post and the New York Times and CNN and MSNBC, calling it all fake news and trying to discredit it that way, it does seemingly have a bit of a trickle-down effect. Because where you see a lot of these stations are in the heartland, right? They're in you know, different markets, probably I would say in every major city that go out to a lot of people in rural America. If you looked at the clip that I showed you guys, there's a lot of Fox affiliates out there, and these people are going to be targeting, well, Republican voters, and Republican voters very well know the term fake news, and usually because it's being used to try to discredit something that isn't always 100% fake news. But the way that it's taught, the way that they're shown this information is. So this particular type of broadcast is very frightening. It's very freaky to watch it played out like that, where it's like bam, 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 you know, and you hear it, just the audio the same. I mean, sure, they synced it up for maximum effect, obviously, but it's definitely a fake thing too. And the problem that it comes from ultimately is right-leaning media, especially coming from Sinclair, is trying to push an agenda, and they're trying to they're basically forcing their employees to spout propaganda because they want to create a certain narrative and they want to push a certain agenda. And that is scary to me. Now, look, I understand people out there have their own political opinions and people out there have their own political biases, and that's going to come through in one way or another. And I don't think there's anything we're ever going to be able to do to get around that 100%. But at the same time, when you run a journalist news outlet, your job is to be objective. Your job is to be balanced and truthful and fair. But when you force your employees to stand in front of a camera and read off a script that sounds like it was going to be delivered by a person who is, you know, got a knife to the throat by ISIS, it really doesn't do a lot to bring faith and trust to what we have in terms of a journalistic integrity in this country. And our journalists are already under attack as it is. It's very true. People watch the news and they see these stories, they see these claims of fake news from particular outlets that are trying to push an agenda, and then they look at their local affiliate, who they get most, like probably 90% of their news from, and they start distrusting the local affiliates. That's never a good sign. Not everyone who was in this video is definitely on board with what Sinclair is up to, but at the same time, they have a job. And they have to do what their bosses want, and this is what their bosses want, and it's unfortunate. Hopefully now someone from Sinclair will come forward and talk about what really goes on behind the scenes to give us an understanding, an idea of just, well, either how bad it is or how fake news this whole story is to begin with. What you just saw was a shorter clip from a longer show. The Rustled Podcast airs every Sunday through Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Pacific Standard on rustled.net. Please consider subscribing to the channel as well as 3 Buck Theater and potentially becoming one of our sponsors at patreon.com/mundanematt. Thank you and have a great day.